YouTube, it's always a sad day to see when two NBA legends are retiring and leaving their basketball careers behind them in the NBA. And that's why I'm making this video today, because I think it is important for fans like me and like you guys to appreciate the legacy they leave behind, to honor their careers and celebrate them, talk about our favorite memories of them, right? And those two players being two legendary point guards of my era of basketball, and that is Derrick Rose and Kemba Walker. In this video, I want to explain some of my favorite memories of them, playing throughout their career. And again, just honor the legends, right? Because these two guys are legends, no question about it. Make sure you guys let me know down in the comment section before I start, what are your favorite memories of these players? What are your favorite moments of their careers? Anything you have to say about Kemba or D Rose, let me know down in the comments. I'd love to hear the feedback from you guys. I'm certainly going to be giving mine in this video. We'll start with Derrick Rose. I think Derrick Rose has had one of the more interesting careers of any player, right? And just for Derrick Rose, you definitely inspired me as a basketball fan. And I was just a kid really when he was on that MVP tear with the Bulls. I always loved Derrick Rose. It was hard not to, right? It was a similar kind of thing with like Allen Iverson, I think, to a lot of people from my generation. Seeing Derrick Rose, it was pretty unprecedented, the level of point guard play. He was a different type of point guard than maybe we'd ever seen at the time. And now with guys like Ja Morant and Russell Westbrook, Westbrook came up around the similar time as Rose, but I think Rose was doing it a little bit before him. Just the athletic point guard, right? High flying point guard that's just going to give you a bucket and just get to the rim and finish like a small forward would, right? But I think people get lost in the athleticism sometimes with D Rose, right? He was also a really skilled point guard and playmaker, but just the athleticism is something that you really don't see even today. Derrick Rose is a different kind of athlete to me than Ja Morant or Russell Westbrook. The agility and just bounciness was something like I've never seen it. Ja Morant, again, is maybe the biggest leaper of all the point guards, but Derrick Rose just got off the ground so fast. He was maybe the quickest guy I've ever seen leave the floor. He could get up and down the floor faster than anyone in the league, but also the agility. I mean, the way he jumped was just like, I've never seen anything like it from a guy that small. It was, again, unprecedented at the time. And Derrick Rose, I think, still holds the record, in that 2011 season. He was the youngest player to ever win NBA MVP, right? I think that's still the record. I think he's still the youngest player to ever win that. And, throughout the years, people have criticized D Rose. They're like, oh, that wasn't a great MVP. LeBron should have won it, blah, blah, blah. Listen, if you were watching basketball at that time, the numbers might not look eye-popping for today's standards. 25 points, 7 or 8 assists on pretty good efficiency for a point guard back then, right? You could say he wasn't the best shooter, but like that was an MVP caliber season. The Bulls were the 1 seed. They were so good, and D Rose was their engine. I don't have any issue with him winning MVP that season. If you were around, watching basketball at that time, he deserved it. Obviously, Derrick Rose, the injuries were always going to be a main thing in his career with the knees, right? I remember against my 76ers in the playoffs watching that, the career changing, and I don't think it defines him, but I think, that is a big moment in his career, that injury in the playoffs against my Sixers. I remember watching that live and just being horrified, because as a basketball fan and a 76ers fan, you'd think, you'd say, oh, well, now their best player's out, now we have a chance to win, and they did win that series, but that's not how I operate, right? I was sad for Derrick Rose, even though he was the enemy to my team at that moment. You don't want to beat a team at half strength, right? And that's kind of always how I've been a fan, of basketball. Basketball is about competitiveness. You want to beat the best team at their best, right? And the Sixers didn't get an opportunity to do that once D Rose went down, and nobody else did in that conference, because I think the Bulls were on pace to make a historic run that year and in years following. I mean, nobody wants to win against a team at half strength. That doesn't feel good to win games like that. Anyway, I'm going off on a tirade. Derrick Rose, I watched that live, and it again horrified me. I had his shoes. They were the first basketball shoes of a player I ever bought when I was like, I think 13 years old, when the Adidas D Rose ones came out, and he had those ankle braces. Oh, it was so cool. But D Rose was just so cool. Again, like it was so cool watching him. He was definitely a top 5 player in the league at that time, and then the injury came and missed kind of a whole year. I do wonder how it would have gone if he were to get that ACL injury like literally today. Let's say he did that today. Would the doctors, with the new ACLs, you see like so many people return almost like in like 6 months sometimes. You guys remember, if you're football fans, Adrian Peterson was the first one that comes to mind. He almost looked better after the injury, right? Back then it was a little different. ACL could ruin your career. It could certainly lose all your explosiveness and athleticism, especially in basketball when you need your knees so much for an athletic player like D Rose was. I wonder today how serious that injury would have affected his career with the new type of, I guess, science that they've developed, to where ACLs, we see them all the time and they don't really seem to define players' careers. Think about Paul George after his, I don't think it was an ACL, I think he broke his leg, but it certainly looked like a career-ending injury, but he came back, and had, again, a Hall of Fame career. So that's something I always think about, you know. And then Derrick Rose still having a really solid career after that injury, even though he was never quite the same athletically. He found a way to stay in the league. I mean, you know, he's been in the league for this long on bad knees, and, you know, he's had some injury issues. They repeated throughout his career, clearly, but D Rose was still a great and impactful player after that. I mean, one of my favorite moments of D Rose is in the, I think it was 2016 or 2015 playoffs, where he hit that game winner from 3 on Cleveland Cavaliers. I mean, that was just so, you always love to see a great comeback, and that to me was like the epitome of like, he's back, you know. And it was just, it's so inspiring to see someone have so many issues that are totally out of their control, that, you know, affect their career in such a big way, in a big negative way, and to overcome that in a moment like that was just very inspiring to me. Because you think about the Timberwolves, right, that 50-point game he had, there's so many moments throughout his career where you just have to be like, I love this guy, you know, he overcame all that stuff, and that, you know, that's something I can carry with me, that's something I can, you know, cling to as a, you know, young person growing up. And everyone faces adversity, right? And, you know, D Rose handled it like a pro, like a champion, right? And I think that's something that really inspired me, is his ability to always come back stronger, and, you know, maybe not quite the same physically, but he definitely has the dedication and the drive to continue his career as best he can, right? And he might not be able to control how athletic he is after a knee surgery, but he sure is going to give it his best and hit a game winner against Cleveland in the playoffs, you know, score that 50-point game with the Timberwolves. So D Rose, that is my favorite moment of his career, just coming back year after year after those injuries and just, you know, proving everybody wrong, right? And just really overcoming his injuries as best as he could have, right? And injuries are always going to happen in sports, and really at the end of the day, they're out of players' control. You know, sometimes it's a freak thing like D Rose's knee. Sometimes you might not be the same after an injury, but you sure can do your best to be the best player you can. That is in your control, right? And he came back every time and really did that to the fullest. I think a lot of people can take that as motivation and, you know, inspiration for their lives, whatever it may be. Probably not a knee injury, but whatever it may be, right? So D Rose, you know, definitely am gonna miss him, you know, being in the NBA, and his career was so legendary. As I mentioned, you gotta just respect the adversity he dealt with in his career. It's always a big what if, how great he could have been. Would he be an all-time great with Chicago, you know, if he never had the injuries? Probably, right? And this guy was coming off an MVP at the youngest age ever. What was he, 21, 22, 23 years old, right? The Chicago Bulls were rolling. They were a great roster, you know. There's no question he would be an all-time great point guard, and he probably would have maybe a lot more hardware to his name. I'm not going to say a championship, but he certainly had a chance to. You know, the Bulls were really good. So again, maybe the biggest what if in NBA history, what if D Rose never had the injuries, right? But even with the injuries, I think it makes him more inspirational to me because of his, you know, resilience to come back, do all these great things after his injuries, after everybody said he was done, he was no good, and, you know, that's just inspiring to me. So, you know, definitely honor Derrick Rose and, you know, respect his career. What an absolute legend for everything he's done in the NBA. Sticking around this long with all those injuries is a real testament to his work ethic and love for the game of basketball, and he just put so much into it that I think affected a lot of people. So, you know, definitely got to give my respect and admiration for Derrick Rose. We're gonna miss you, D Rose. The next guy, obviously, Kemba Walker, and I have so many great memories of Kemba Walker. He was just so cool and like one of my favorite players in the NBA throughout his career. I always loved Kemba with the Hornets. You know, the year I started watching basketball was probably 2010, right? And probably, you know, it's a really big year for both these guys' career. But Kemba Walker, this is when I used to watch college. I don't really watch it anymore, but Kemba with UConn, I mean, was just so electric, right? And I was just such a young, naive fan. I'm like, this guy has to go first overall. You know, how can he not go first when, you know, he's doing all this stuff at UConn? I had no idea how the NBA worked, right? He was a small point guard, right? But like, I think he ended up going 9th to Charlotte. But like, that's how I thought as an NBA fan. I just loved Kemba. He was such a competitor and such a clutch performer at UConn, you know, winning that national championship, hitting all those big shots. Go back and watch Kemba's highlights at UConn if you don't remember, or if you were too young to see it. I mean, Kemba was just so cool and awesome at UConn. I wanted him to go first overall. I forget who went that year. It might have been Kyrie. I think it was Kyrie. But either way, man, that was just such a great memory for me. And then he gets in the league at Charlotte, and everybody doubted him because he was an undersized guard. That's why he went 9th, right? And you could make a real case that Kemba Walker is the Hornets' best player in their franchise history, period, right? I'm not exaggerating here. You could make a real case for that if you look at their history. I mean, you know, technically, you know, Alonzo Mourning, Larry Johnson, Muggsy Bogues, like those are some players I think could, you know, you can make a case for. But Kemba, to me, looking at all the resume, I mean, he's a 4-time All-Star, right? This is a guy that I think probably is the best Hornets player of all time. So that is legendary in itself. You know, I actually had the opportunity to go to a Sixers preseason game. I forget how I got the tickets. It might have been like some kind of raffle or something. I actually forget, but I ended up sitting in the second row, like right behind behind the like scorers table and all that, and I'll put a picture on screen. I still have it of Kemba like maybe 5 feet away from me. It was insane. That's the closest I ever sat to a Sixers game. I just remember thinking like, that's Kemba Walker right in front of me. I was so like nervous. I was probably 16, 17 or something like that, and it was just one of the best moments for me as a basketball fan. I'll show the pictures of like some of the, you know, this was like when Nerlens Noel and them were on the Sixers. It was the beginning stages of the process, and the fact that I was so close to that, you know, Lance Stevenson and Michael Kidd-Gilchrist sitting on the scorers table right in front of me. But Kemba Walker, I remember that aura. He had the aura, no question about it. And you know, even though it was a preseason game, I could, you know, it was a little bit different, but it was just so incredible to me that, you know, an NBA All-Star, an NBA just 25 point per game scorer, somebody I really admire their game and look up to, is like standing 5 feet away. I couldn't, it's a very surreal feeling as a kid watching that. But anyways, that's a great memory. Another great memory of Kemba, you know, with the Hornets is his career high 60-point game that he dropped against my Sixers. The Sixers ended up winning. That was 2019, the Jimmy Butler year. Bro, Kemba was on one that night. He was on something because he was just he was like literally solely carrying that franchise for that time period, you know, and he dropped 60 on my Sixers. It ended up going to overtime. Jimmy Butler hit the game winner. He also blocked Kemba and then hit the game winner in overtime, I think. So what an experience. I remember watching that live and just being like in awe of Kemba. I'm like, we're gonna lose. We're gonna lose. We can't stop this dude. No one can. He's just one of those nights where Kemba just had it. He just had it and he just kept going. And then towards the end, I think he ran out of gas and lost a lot of his stamina in overtime. You kind of lose a rhythm a lot of times when it goes to overtime. But the way he just kept that team in that game, it was like every trip down the floor, it was a three, it was a floater, it was a foul, right? They just couldn't stop him. And this was an elite NBA defense. Joel Embiid, Ben Simmons, Jimmy Butler, you know, we couldn't stop him. And, you know, Jimmy ended up getting it because we were a better team, but Kemba was the best player in that game, no question. And I will always remember that 60 plus points game for Kemba Walker against my Sixers and just watching it and being so afraid every time he touched the ball. We just had no answer, you know? And then, you know, Kemba throughout his later years with the league, you know, he kind of bounced around from team to team and kind of fell off a little bit towards the end of his career with, you know, teams like Boston and New York. And I think he might have spent some time in Detroit. I'm not looking at the numbers or anything or the basketball reference right now, but Kemba was just such an awesome player, right? He was very unique. He was total, if you want to talk about bag, I mean, bag Twitter probably goes nuts for Kemba. He had the handles, some of the best handles, creating off the dribble. The dude was an absolute nightmare. It was like a light version of Kyrie Irving, you could say, or he was just such a potent scorer, you know, and just the ability to carry that team offensively for so many years. It's a shame Kemba really never got the help he needed in Charlotte because, you know, I really loved his game so much. And, you know, he had that aura, man. Kemba had aura. It was like, you know, I can't really describe him and you had to be there, but Kemba's a legend in my book. Always remember as one of my favorite point guards in the league. Some of it is nostalgia, you know, having grown up and watching him in college at UConn, thinking he was so awesome. And, you know, he was such a competitor too. Like he really cared about winning. You know, a lot of these stars that are scorers, you know, I'm not saying none of them care about winning, but like, you know, a lot of these guys that put up 20 shots a game and, you know, you could say, make a case for some of them. We know who the players are. I don't have to say names, but we know who they are, who I'm talking about, who would rather score 25 points on, you know, and look cool and look good than, you know, do what the necessary things to sacrifice for the team to win, right? Kemba was not that guy, man. He did put up the shots. He did, you know, maybe look at his numbers and say they're inefficient, but honestly, man, on those Charlotte teams, he had to. It was like AI with the Sixers. He just had to put up shots to carry that team to win, and he did it so frequently. I mean, he only made the playoffs a few times with the Hornets, but like maybe even once. I can't remember, but I remember that team, you know, the team they went to the playoffs with, they were so talented. Like, you know, they didn't have like a star or anything like that other than Kemba, you know. If they had hit on some of their draft picks, you think about Michael Kidd-Gilchrist, didn't really work out. The Lance Stevenson signing was kind of a bust. Cody Zeller, another pick that didn't pan out, the high draft pick, right? If they had just hit on one of those picks and got like a star next to Kemba, you know, again, Charlotte's a small market and it was a poorly run organization with Michael Jordan at the top, but like, you know, Kemba was just so awesome to me and such a great player and fun player to watch. Can't say enough great things about both of these guys, Derrick Rose, Kemba Walker. But Kemba, we're gonna miss you, man. Hopefully you have a great rest of your life, and you know, there's always avenues, I think, for a lot of these guys after their career. Hopefully, you know, they are happy and content in retirement. I know it's hard for athletes to retire because you lose that camaraderie in the locker room, you lose the competitiveness, you know, you don't get to compete. You've been doing it for your whole life. Hopefully, you know, I really do wish the best for these two men in their retirement. And, you know, please, like I said in the comments, if you have anything to say about these guys' career, you know, just to honor them, their legacy, and just respect their, you know, craft and what they did for the league. And two great point guards are retiring, and, you know, they're not going to be in the NBA anymore. But I think I might have heard that Kemba is taking on like a coaching or player advisory role or or something with the Hornets, which would be really cool if that rumor is true. I think I heard that. It could be about someone else. Let me know down in the comment section if I'm tripping or if that actually happened. It's one of those things I can't remember if I saw it or if I made it up in my head, but I think Kemba did take some kind of coach, like advisor role to the young players or something like that. That would be cool influence on LaMelo Ball. Kemba's had a ton of experience. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Again, anything you have to say about them, let me know down in the comments. I would love to hear your guys' perspectives on their careers. You know, they were so great and so fun to watch for so many years in the NBA, and we will miss them as NBA fans. So hopefully you guys, you know, can let me know good stuff, and I will catch you guys in the next one, man. Just had to make a video about this. These were two guys that influenced my NBA fandom quite a bit growing up, and it's sad to see them go, but you know, I think it is important that we honor, you know, legends when they retire. You have to talk about it. You have to talk about appreciating their careers, and I think it's important to do so. That's why I made this video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed their careers as much as I did, and hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. If you did enjoy the video, you know, make sure you drop a like. It really helps out the video, helps new people find the video. And you know, if you guys want to watch more content like this, I post every day on this channel. So all things NBA every day. We cover news, we cover off-season stuff, you know, when the season's going on. It's just everyday basketball on this channel we're going to be talking about, and different topics. And I talk about almost every team. I try to keep a good variety of, you know, content on the channel, but again, it is NBA content every day on this channel. Hopefully you guys enjoy the rest of your day today, and hopefully Kemba and D-Rose enjoy the rest of their lives as retired NBA players. We will miss you both. Let me know down in the comment section favorite memories of Kemba or D-Rose, and hopefully you guys have a great rest of your day. I'll catch you in the next one. This is your boy D-Haven. As always, peace.